Top 5 Roosevelt Dime Coins Worth Big Money. Welcome to Numismatic Vault Extra. Today, we're exploring some of the most valuable top 5 Roosevelt dime coins from United States of America, United States. In this video, we'll cover their current market values, highlight notable era coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain Roosevelt dimes truly rare. This includes silver content, unique color shades, and other special features that have turned these coins into major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are not just pieces of history. They're also some of the most valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, backhand index pointing right, this video is for you. Let's get started with the first coin. Magnifying glass tilted left money bag. The year 1976 carries a special echo in American memory, a year when the United States paused to celebrate 2 centuries of independence. Flags waved louder, history felt closer, and even everyday objects like coins seemed to carry a deeper meaning. In that year, every Roosevelt dime struck carried more than 10 cents of value in symbolism alone. The Roosevelt dime itself was born from national grief and national pride. Introduced after the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt, it honored a president who guided the country through economic collapse and global war. By 1976, his image had already become familiar, yet it still represented resilience, recovery, and leadership. The Denver Mint, marked by the small but meaningful D, was running at full strength during this bicentennial era. America needed coinage for a booming population, and millions of dimes flowed from presses that never truly slept. These coins were meant to move, to circulate, to live in pockets and purses, not to sit quietly in collections. Unlike earlier Roosevelt dimes made before 1965, the 1976 D dime was not struck in silver. That change itself tells a powerful story. Rising silver prices and economic pressure forced the nation to move away from precious metals, signaling a turning point in how Americans defined value. Yet the absence of silver does not erase importance. A 1976 dime represents a nation stepping fully into the modern monetary world, where trust replaced metal and belief replaced weight. That shift reshaped global economics, and small coins like this were on the front lines of that transformation. Many stories circulate claiming unimaginable wealth hidden inside ordinary coins, but the real fascination lies elsewhere. True numismatic value comes not from fantasy, but from survival, condition, and meaning. Coins that endure decades without damage carry quiet strength that collectors respect deeply. A 1976 D. Roosevelt dime in exceptional condition becomes a time capsule. It may show sharp details, clean fields, and a strong strike that reflects careful minting during a celebratory year. Such preservation transforms a common object into a historical artifact. What makes people dream about overnight fortune is not the coin itself, but the idea that history might suddenly reward attention. Coins teach patience, not speed. The greatest collections in the world were built slowly, coin by coin, year by year. The Roosevelt dime connects generations. Grandparents who lived through the bicentennial may remember receiving these coins as change, unaware that decades later someone would study them with care and curiosity. That unbroken human chain gives the coin emotional weight. The power of this dime is not in spending it or selling it quickly, but in understanding it. Knowledge elevates even the smallest denomination. When you know why a coin exists, who it honors, and what era shaped it, value becomes deeper than price. The Denver Mint's role in 1976 reflects America's industrial confidence. Machines struck millions of coins with precision, symbolizing order, progress, and national unity during a year of reflection. Each dime is a miniature monument to that moment. Some collectors search for errors, unusual strikes, or pristine examples, not because they expect instant wealth, but because rarity is born from accident and carelessness avoided. These are the quiet miracles of minting history. Coins do not change fortunes overnight, but they can change perspective forever. Holding a 1976 Roosevelt dime is holding a reminder that value evolves, that history moves forward, and that even modest objects can outlive the people who created them. The true danger is not spending such a coin, but ignoring what it represents. When history is overlooked, meaning is lost. When history is studied, even a dime becomes powerful. In the end, the 1976 D. Roosevelt dime stands as a symbol of transition, celebration, and trust. Not a billionaire's secret, but something far more enduring, a piece of America's ongoing story, quietly waiting for someone who understands its voice. Next coin. The year 1975 arrived in the United States during a time of quiet recovery, when the nation was still catching its breath after war, social change, and economic uncertainty. In that atmosphere, the Roosevelt dime without a mint mark was born in Philadelphia, not as a luxury item, but as a working coin meant to move through millions of hands, silently witnessing everyday American life. The Roosevelt dime itself carries a story heavier than its small size suggests. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was more than a president. He was a symbol of endurance during the darkest economic collapse in American history. When his portrait was placed on the dime, it was not done for decoration, but as a reminder that leadership and resolve could guide a nation through fear. By 1975, silver had already vanished from circulating dimes, marking a major shift in American money. This change was not accidental. It reflected rising metal prices and a global economy that demanded flexibility. The absence of silver does not weaken the dime's story. It defines it as a product of modern transformation. The Philadelphia Mint, producing dimes without any mint mark, was the heart of American coinage. It struck coins not for collectors, but for commerce, producing enormous numbers that flowed into banks, stores, and wages across the country. Each coin became a traveler, carrying history unknowingly. What gives the 1975 Roosevelt dime its intrigue is not fantasy, but survival. Millions were made, yet only a fraction remain untouched by time. Coins that avoided heavy wear, scratches, and corrosion now stand apart, quietly rare in a world that rarely preserves small things. Stories often exaggerate overnight riches, but real value grows through understanding. A coin becomes powerful when you know its era, its purpose, and the hands it passed through. This dime lived during inflation fears, political change, and a nation redefining itself after decades of turmoil. The metal itself may be clad, but the meaning is layered. Copper and nickel replaced silver, symbolizing trust in government and stability rather than reliance on precious metal weight. That decision reshaped how Americans viewed money, and the 1975 dime stands firmly at that crossroads. Collectors today are drawn to condition, not hype. A sharply struck 1975 dime with clean surfaces, strong details, and original luster tells a story of care or luck. Such coins escape the chaos of circulation, becoming silent survivors of a busy monetary world. The Roosevelt dime also reflects America's respect for legacy. Few leaders remain honored on currency for generations, yet Roosevelt's presence endured, reminding citizens daily of perseverance, reform, and responsibility. Even a 10-cent piece carried that lesson. Many people unknowingly spend history every day. Coins slip through fingers unnoticed, yet each one holds decades of human exchange. The 1975 dime bought bread, paid bus fares, and rested in pockets during moments both ordinary and unforgettable. What truly changes fortune is not spending or hoarding, but learning. Knowledge transforms a common object into a meaningful artifact. A person who understands coins understands time, economics, and human behavior woven together in metal. The Philadelphia Mint's craftsmanship during the mid-1970s was precise, efficient, and industrial, reflecting a nation focused on progress. These dimes were not made to impress, but to endure, and many still do. A well-preserved 1975 dime becomes a mirror of the past. It shows what America valued, how it adapted, and how it moved forward without abandoning its symbols. That quiet strength gives the coin its lasting appeal. True collectors know that fortune is rarely sudden. It grows from patience, study, and respect for history. Coins reward those who listen to their stories rather than chase myths. In the end, the 1975 Roosevelt dime without a mint mark is not a miracle of silver or instant wealth, but something deeper and more honest. It is a witness to a nation rebuilding confidence, a reminder that even the smallest coin can carry the weight of an era. Next coin. The story of the 1982 Roosevelt dime begins quietly, almost unnoticed, during a time when America was learning how to move forward after decades of economic pressure and cultural change. The early 1980s were not flashy years. They were years of adjustment, resilience, and rebuilding trust. Into this atmosphere came a small 10-cent coin from the Denver Mint, marked with a simple D, carrying far more history than its size would ever suggest. By 1982, American money had already gone through a transformation that many people barely noticed. Silver, once the backbone of U.S. coinage, had disappeared from everyday circulation years earlier. This change reshaped how people understood value. The Roosevelt dime became a symbol not of precious metal, but of faith in stability, government, and continuity during uncertain times. Franklin D. Roosevelt's presence on the dime was no coincidence. He represented leadership during the Great Depression, a time when Americans needed confidence more than wealth. Every Roosevelt dime, including the 1982 D, carried that legacy forward, reminding people that strength is often measured not by riches, but by endurance. The Denver Mint played a crucial role in supplying the nation with coinage during this era. Coins struck there were meant to work hard, to circulate endlessly through stores, wages, vending machines, and pockets. The 1982 D dime was born into motion, never intended to rest quietly in collections or drawers. Most of these dimes lived difficult lives. They were stacked, counted, dropped, and exchanged without care. They felt the friction of decades, rubbing against other coins and surfaces. That constant use slowly erased sharp details, turning millions of once brilliant coins into worn reminders of daily commerce. And that is where the hidden power of this coin begins. True rarity is not always about low production. Sometimes it is about survival. A 1982 D Roosevelt dime that escaped heavy wear, that kept its original texture and clarity, becomes something uncommon simply because so few avoided damage. The era itself adds emotional depth. America in the early 1980s was facing inflation fears, job uncertainty, and a changing global economy. Every dime exchanged during that time was part of a larger story, one of adaptation, sacrifice, and cautious hope for a stronger future. Collectors are often drawn to coins like this not because they glitter with silver, but because they reflect a turning point. The clad composition symbolizes modern America, where value shifted from metal content to trust and systems. The 1982 D dime stands firmly in that new chapter of monetary history. There is also something deeply human about this coin. It passed through countless hands, touching lives that will never be recorded. It bought coffee, paid tolls, and sat quietly in cash registers during moments both ordinary and meaningful. Few objects experience human connection so consistently. Stories sometimes exaggerate instant fortune, but the real magic of coins lies in patience and understanding. Markets change slowly, shaped by time, condition, and demand. A coin once ignored can become important when history catches up to it. What gives the 1982 D dime its lasting fascination is that it was never meant to be special. It was meant to be spent. Coins created without expectation often become the most interesting, because no one thought to protect them. The Denver Mint's craftsmanship during this period was precise and efficient, reflecting an industrial America focused on function. When a coin from this era appears today in unusually strong condition, it immediately commands attention because it defies expectation. Many people still overlook these dimes today, passing them along without a second thought. That is how history often works. Value hides behind familiarity, waiting for someone curious enough to pause and look closer. Fortune, in the world of coins, does not belong to those who rush. It belongs to those who learn, observe, and respect the story behind the object. Knowledge transforms metal into meaning. Franklin Roosevelt once said that the only thing to fear is fear itself. In that spirit, this dime represents calm persistence through uncertain times. It is a quiet reminder that stability is built slowly, one small step at a time. In the end, the 1982 D Roosevelt dime is not just money. It is a witness to a nation adjusting its identity, redefining value, and moving forward without forgetting its past. For those who truly understand it, this small coin represents possibility. Not overnight fantasy, but the long, powerful journey of history itself. Next coin. The story of the 1999 D Roosevelt dime begins at the edge of a turning point in American history, when the nation stood with one foot in the 20th century and the other stepping into an unknown future. The year 1999 carried a quiet tension, anticipation mixed with uncertainty, as people prepared for a new millennium. In the middle of that moment, millions of small, unassuming dimes left the Denver Mint, never knowing they would one day become part of a much larger conversation about value, time, and hidden potential. By the late 1990s, American coinage had become something most people no longer questioned. Coins were tools, not treasures. They moved quickly from hand to hand, through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets, rarely examined and almost never respected. The 1999 D Roosevelt dime was born into that world of speed and distraction, where no one stopped to wonder what today's ordinary coin might mean tomorrow. Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait on the dime carries a weight far heavier than 10 cents. He symbolizes resilience during the Great Depression and leadership during global uncertainty. Every Roosevelt dime, including those struck in 1999, carries that legacy forward. Even in an age dominated by digital screens and plastic cards, his presence on the coin quietly reminded Americans of endurance and steady resolve. The Denver Mint's role in 1999 was focused on efficiency and volume. Coins were produced to meet demand, not to inspire admiration. That reality shaped the fate of the 1999 D-dime. Most were immediately pushed into circulation, where they faced years of wear, friction, and neglect. They were never meant to rest, and almost none were saved with intention. This constant use is where the story deepens. Coins that live hard lives leave behind very few survivors in truly strong condition. A dime that avoided heavy wear, that retained sharp details and clean surfaces, did so against overwhelming odds. That kind of survival creates fascination, because it reflects chance, timing, and awareness aligning perfectly. Over time, stories began to grow around late-year coins like the 1999 D-dime. Whispers of unusual examples, extraordinary finishes, and unexpected characteristics traveled quietly through collector circles. Whether rooted in fact, misunderstanding, or hope, these stories fueled curiosity. History shows that legends often form where attention was once absent. The end of the 1990s was also the end of an era of innocence. Technology was accelerating, money was becoming less physical, and people were beginning to trust systems more than objects. The Roosevelt dime stood in contrast to that shift. It was solid, tangible, and honest. Something you could hold, count, and feel. What makes the 1999 D-dime emotionally powerful is that it represents the last quiet breath of the old century. It passed through hands that would soon live in a very different world. That connection to a closing chapter of American life gives the coin meaning that goes beyond numbers or composition. Many people believe that value must announce itself loudly, but history disagrees. Some of the most talked about coins were once ignored completely. The idea that a small dime could one day matter deeply comes from this pattern. Time filters the ordinary and leaves behind the exceptional. Condition remains the great divider. Because so many 1999 D-dimes were used without mercy, a truly well-preserved example feels almost out of place today. It stands as proof that someone, somewhere, unknowingly protected a small piece of history. The reverse of the dime, with its torch, olive branch, and oak branch, speaks softly but clearly. It symbolizes liberty, peace, and strength. Values that felt especially important as America prepared to cross into a new century. These symbols give the coin a quiet authority. Most people who encounter this dime today still see nothing special. That is how history continues to hide in plain sight. Value does not always reveal itself immediately. Sometimes it waits for curiosity to catch up. The belief that a coin can change a fortune overnight is often exaggerated, but the deeper truth is more powerful. Knowledge changes outcomes. Understanding history changes perspective. Coins reward those who look closer instead of faster. Franklin Roosevelt once guided a nation through fear and uncertainty with calm confidence. His image on the 1999 D-dime feels like a final reminder before the century turned, that progress is built slowly, with patience and faith. In the end, the 1999 D Roosevelt dime is more than a piece of money. It is a witness to transition, a survivor of neglect, and a symbol of how ordinary objects can carry extraordinary stories. For those who truly understand it, this dime represents possibility. Not magic, but the quiet power of time, history, and attention.